in Canterbury, I'm Mike Yardley. Welcome to NewsMakers, where we debate the week's news through Canterbury eyes. It's a pleasure to introduce our panel: Duncan Cotterill partner and cricket commentator Garth Gallaway, law teacher David Round, and Chief Executive of Orion and Chair of ECA, Roger Sutton. Thank you very much for joining us. We are going to start with the slew of road safety changes that have been given the green light by the government, and there could be even more to come. Young drivers and drunk drivers have been targeted, as have our truly stupid giveaway turning rules. Let us begin with the young things. The minimum driving age will be going up to 16, and novice drivers will be expected to clock up 120 hours of supervised driving before they can drive solo. Is this a step in the right direction, Roger?
Yes. I think children aren't. Well, yeah, children are not ready to drive a car at the age of 15. I think raising the driving age is good. The giveaway rules, I agree with that. I think that's stupid. The alcohol thing, in terms of raising or lowering the limit, I'm not so sure about that. They haven't persuaded me about that. I'm open to be persuaded, and I really would have thought the issue with drunk driving isn't actually those sort of people. It's what I'd call the criminal drunk driver, and I'm not sure what we're really going to do about those. And what's the last one? Children. The 16-year-olds not being allowed to drink and drive at all, I think that's actually a good idea. Let's make it really simple for them.
Actually, I'll just start on that one. In terms of the young drivers, are you happy with the age lift to 16?
I am indeed, Mike. The only vaguely convincing argument I've heard against it is that whenever you start to drive, you're going to be hopeless, and so it's going to raise the age of hopeless drivers from hopeless 15-year-olds to hopeless 16-year-olds. But nevertheless, on the whole, I agree with Roger that these are children driving. They shouldn't be allowed anywhere near a wheel, yes.
There you go.
Like we were. As we were. Well, there were different times then. You could do all sorts of stupid things and you would never hit anyone. It was an utterly different age.
What about the backlash from federated farmers, which is interesting given, you know, this is part of National's constituency. The government seem prepared just to take it on the chin, don't they?
Oh, and so they should. The rural vote is important to National, but it shouldn't be in any way persuasive at an issue like this. I think it's a good thing. I would lower the alcohol content too. I think, you know, to think that I can drink apparently 3/4 of a bottle of wine and then drive after an hour, within an hour and a half, you know, it just seems to me I would be very unwise to do that, but I'm told that I can. Everyone's different.
With respect, I would disagree with my learned colleague on that one, because I'm under the impression that the evidence is that most drink driving offences caused by adults are actually done by a comparatively small number of people who are really, really over the limit, and that all that lowering the adult blood alcohol level limit is going to do is going to mean that all sorts of thoroughly safe, decent drivers who have just had 1 or 2 glasses are going to be penalised, and it's going to do nothing at all to reduce serious road crashes.
I think it sends out a good message, though, and a good signal, and I think it's that we haven't taken in the last Labour government, certainly it could never be accused of taking road safety seriously enough, in my view, and I think with all of the measures, it sends out the right message. You and I will just have to disagree, David.
Roger,
not for the first time today, I suspect.
Roger, do you think there is the danger of a whopping double standard coming from the drink drive proposals, whereby for young drivers it's 0, so that's what, under 20, it's 0, yet for adult drivers you can still have a few, whether it's half a bottle or 3/4?
Because I think for the young person they're both an inexperienced driver and an inexperienced drinker as well. I think that's a very important distinction. And I actually think driving is actually a privilege, not a right. So I think we do need to get much more serious with our young people, saying, actually, if you want to drive, you cannot drink, period, have a nice day. And I just think you have these arbitrary rules. In most countries in the world, you're not even allowed to drive at the age of 16 or 17. In a lot of countries, it's 18. So they're lucky to be, our young people are lucky to be behind the wheel to begin with.
Yeah. And the key to it is that 120 hours of supervised driving. That's the absolute fundamental. It's one thing to raise the age, but the other thing is to educate drivers.
Yeah. How is that going to be enforced? I haven't been able to work out from the government's announcements if that's going to require a logbook to be kept, or is it just a gentle suggestion?
I think we're going to put one of those sort of collars on everybody that's going to track them by GPS. I have no idea.
With a ticking clock. 2 hours, 3 hours, 4. Yes. David, coming back to your concern about the possibility of lowering the adult drink drive limit. Even though we do have a big problem with your hardcore recidivist drink drivers who will blow 3 times over the limit, do you think there is something pretty loose in the fact that Garth, yourself, Roger, myself, could legally have up to 3/4 of a bottle of wine and legally get behind the wheel.
Could I have some more facts about how long I've got to drink this bottle of wine and whether it's on a full
90 minutes,
stomach?
apparently.
That's just a statistic I heard the other day.
Yes.
Now, everyone's different, so of course
Sure.
it doesn't apply.
Yes, yes.
But as a general rule of thumb, does it strike you as being pretty loose?
The television docos I've seen on this, where they've had someone where they've been allowed to drink and drink and drink, and then they've tested them. A lot of people have been very surprised how drunk they've been and still been safe to drive.
At the same time, I have read figures that, this was some years ago, that New Zealand each year, at this time of these two surveys, had about 7 million drink-driving offences each year, in the sense that that was the number of people who drove when they were technically over the limit.
Yeah.
And yet our number, in the vast 99.99% of those cases, no accident occurs at all. Most of us, look, if I'm sure I'd never do such a thing, but if I were to drink 3/4 of a bottle of wine, I would drive carefully and compensate for that, and I would imagine that I would be likely to drive in perfect safety.
Your problem is, of course, if you then get hit.
I don't have a problem, Garth.
If you then, among many, is if you then get hit by someone, you're in trouble regardless.
Oh,
and that's
It's not only your dumb behaviour, it's someone else doing something
exactly.
dumb around you, and you're less able to respond to that dumbness.
Roger has hit the nail on the head.
Well done, Mr. Sutton. Just a very quick comment on the giveaway turning rules, which are going to be flipped on their head, apparently, next year. Roger, I know that you're with me on this. They're wacky at the moment. Do you agree with the change? Do you understand it?
There's one, we looked at the changes in the press the other day, a gathering of lawyers, highly intelligent people, and there was one that I think we all struggled with, and I can't even remember which one it was.
You
But
probably didn't even know what the current rule was. Yeah, that was probably the
he
point.
who goes...
As I understand it, we're essentially reverting to the good old rule under which we grew up.
Yes.
And I must say, I have never, to this day, been quite able to remember instinctively the new rule, and I still am inclined to get just a little flustered sometimes at intersections, which means that I'm more cautious.
But not if you've been drinking wine when you're very relaxed.
We will take a break. Coming up, should we pull the pin on Afghanistan and Tsunami Sunday? We'll get our panellists' observations. Do stay with us.